Comes to the preparation, now that you've had the bye week, if you will, last week, is this pretty much going to be a normal week of preparation for you?
Yeah. Now we've hit this week. It'll be a little bit different because Thanksgiving, right? But today, so Monday. Usually Mondays are the off day for the guys. We had them off yesterday, so Monday we're practicing. It'll be like our normal Tuesday. Tuesday's gonna be like our normal Wednesday. Wednesday's gonna be like our normal Thursday, and then Thanksgiving Day we're gonna have an abbreviated morning practice. Just try to knock that thing out in a little over an hour. Just kind of almost like a test run through things where we go, work on like opener type of set, special teams focus, then just more plays, special teams focus, a few more plays, extra point field goal, boom, they're out of there. So yeah, pretty normal week. It'll just be, hey, when you have Thanksgiving on Thursday, we'll shuttle them out of there after the morning practice, give them a chance to be with their families. And guys that are on our kind of dress list here that maybe not be able to make it home, we'll have either one of us coaches or one of their buddies having them with a Thanksgiving meal, and then we'll get them back on Friday and do our normal Friday walkthrough, and Saturday's game day. So we're trying to keep it as normal as possible. There'll be a few little wrinkles in there, but for the most part it's kind of business as usual. And now we're really fully into that Platteville preparation versus last week was kind of, hey, get back to some fundamentals, working on some things that maybe we've been having some trouble with down the stretch that we needed to fix. And now it's really focusing on Platteville with what we're doing and making sure we've got them down as best we can and be ready to go for Saturday.
And what were those things that you're focused on that maybe weren't up to the standard that you want them to down the stretch of the season?
Yeah. I think a couple things here. The special team side of things. Obviously our punt team had a couple of issues there down the stretch. We had a punt block that cost us a score against Dubuque. Co got a hand on one late in the game against a couple of those big games. Having some trouble just with our whether it's the timing or the protection side of things, just getting that stuff cleaned up and making sure that's not something that's gonna special team play can really cost you in a playoff game. There's no doubt about that. So just kind of honing in on our special teams, making sure that those are ready to go and those are in a spot where we feel like, hey, we can go out and win the field position battle on Saturday. Defensively, you're always trying to make sure your tackling stays sharp. Now that may not be out there, taking guys to the ground every single day, but working on getting our feet in position, our pursuit angles, the way that we're pursuing the football, especially with Platteville going to make this thing a space game. They're going to put the ball out there in space and try to make you tackle in space. That was something we really want to make sure we were preparing ourselves for and not letting that slip. And sometimes you see tackling start to kind of fall off late in the season with teams. So that was something we focused on defensively. And then on the offensive side, just really about our execution, kind of maintaining that consistency of execution. I think that was something first half of the season, a lot of times we were stopping ourselves on offense. And I think the back half of the season here, we've been able to kind of consistently move the football, make sure that, hey, if someone's going to get a stop, they're going to have to earn that stop and not us making a mistake with a penalty or, having some type of procedural issue during our cadence where we're jumping, false starting, getting called for a hold, whatever it might be. So just making sure that all those procedural things our focus is on making sure that we're efficient with the way that we're operating. So when we get to Saturday, we're not going to have those type of problems. So, like I said, each phase had its own little kind of area we really wanted to focus on and make sure we were ready to roll.
Obviously, you saw Platteville in a scrimmage on the preseason end of things. Based on the film you've watched, how much different are they now? Really, how much different are you guys now?
Yeah. Obviously, I think both teams have matured throughout the season, right? You can see that both teams have gotten better throughout the year. Obviously, anytime you have a scrimmage, there's going to be some things that are a little more sloppy than what you would expect, whether it's with, having some opportunities to hook up on a big play and not hooking up, overthrowing a ball, having, like I said, procedural issue, penalties, things that you can control, missed assignments, things like that. As you start to watch the film and as the season progresses, for both teams, I think, obviously you're getting yourself in a situation where you're not seeing those type of things late in the year. But I would say schematically, what you see, we get their final 3 games of the season is what we get a chance to see. And if you look at that compared to, what we saw in our scrimmage, I would say the way that they operate, their schematic side of things, what we saw in the scrimmage is probably what we're going to get here, as the season went on. They're not a team that tries to be the flavor of the week every week. You know, they run what they run, and they're confident in what they're capable of doing, and they're confident in their scheme, and they're going to be pretty consistent in what they do. And so like I said, I think there's some things that we can take away from that scrimmage in terms of, you know, how the look might be and that type of thing. But, you know, again, both teams, I think, have come a long way from that point to today in terms of how prepared they are to play in this game and how crisp they are in terms of their operation.
How long is that preseason scrimmage with Platteville and you guys? How long have you guys been doing that? Yeah.
So that's been going on. Geez, I think it's since 2008. I think was the first year that we did that. It's going to the memory bank there a little bit, but I believe 2008 was the first year. We had a few. You know, in 2006, 2007, Eric Kaler was our head coach, and he had coached at Platteville prior to being here at Wartburg and had a pretty good relationship with their head football coach at the time, Mike Emmendorfer. And so that kind of, those two kind of brought that together. And then when Coach Kaler left kind of that summer right before our 2008 season and Coach Willis took back over there in 2008, we just kind of kept that scrimmage on the books, went the way we would like it to. Both teams, you know, like I said, you know, do things the right way. It's a good scrimmage for both teams. We can coexist in that idea of, hey, here's some things we'd like to see, here's some things you'd like to see, and it meshed really well. And so ever since then, we've just been rolling with it, and it always, like I said, it's a great opponent to play against at that point to really find out where you're at in your process of getting prepared for the season. You know, like I said, they got good kids that do things the right way, so you're confident that you're going to get out of there without, you know, losing somebody to an injury that you could avoid. And like I said, I think we're both on the same page what we want to get done in that scrimmage. And so it's been great. And, you know, like I said, it's just crazy that, you know, at some point it's bound to happen. You know, we're kind of in the same area. And, you know, at some point you're going to end up having that happen. And, hey, this is the year for us to cross paths in an actual game after you've scrimmaged them for that long. So it should be a lot of fun.
Last week, the All-Conference was announced with third straight year. You've had the defensive MVP. What makes you the most proud of kind of all your honorees?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, first of all, you know, it's always, you know, the all-conference thing. Obviously, you're excited for the guys that got honored. We certainly had a bunch of guys that received honors that deserved those. And every year, you're always going to be a little disappointed with a couple that you didn't get, or a couple guys that you thought maybe had deserved maybe a bigger honor. And I think that goes for every coach everywhere when those things come out. You know, there's some that you're really excited about and proud of, and something you're like, man, I wish we would have had that happen. But yeah, overall, you know, I think it was a good showing for our team on the all-conference list. I think the guys that received those honors were really deserving. Obviously, having Parker Rochford get the Defensive Player of the Year. You know, again, this year, if you just look sheerly at statistics in our conference, you know, I don't think that would have told the whole story of what Parker does for our defense. And it was, to me, that was probably the most rewarding thing, is that the rest of our league understands, you know, Parker's value to our defense and the fact that he led the nation in interceptions a year ago and maybe the year before that too. I mean, he's, you know, one of the most productive defensive backs in the country for 2 straight years. Well, at that point, people have got to be aware of where he's at. So, you know, I was a little concerned going into that thing that he may not get the award that I thought he deserved. And it was great to see him get that honor because, again, I know the statistics might look a little different this year than they have in the past for him. But, hey, people are certainly aware of where he's at. One of the things that I think stood out to me was, you know, Parker plays our field safety position, and our will linebacker, Keenan Tyler, was the leading solo tackler in the conference. The guy opposite of where Parker lines up is the leading solo tackler in the conference. Then you look at Thane Alexander, our boundary safety, lines up opposite of Parker, and he led the conference in interceptions. So, okay, the 2 most productive guys in our defense line up opposite Parker. That tells you kind of how people were trying to attack our defense all year, and it says a lot about, hey, those guys stepped up, and both those guys certainly deserving of first-team all-conference honors, which they received. And a lot of that can be said because, hey, Parker was kind of given those opportunities to make plays, and they made them. So anyway, like, so that was probably that was the thing that made me the happiest, to see Parker receive that honor, especially after kind of being in the shadow of Owen Grover, even though he was having some significantly successful seasons over the last 2 years statistically. And for him to get that honor this year is really special. The other one, you know, obviously I'm proud of all of them, but on the offensive side, I was really happy to see Carter Henry finally receive some of the notoriety I think he deserves. You know, I still think, I said it a year ago in this conference at this time too, like, that's the guy, him and Drake George, 2 guys that, you know, I think in the last 3 years have been as good as any receiver in our league. They just don't have the same statistics because we don't throw the ball quite as much as everybody else. And so for Carter Henry to actually get that recognition this year, what was great. I was glad to see him receive the second team honor. And again, in my mind, he's a first team all-conference guy, and I've always said that. But for him to at least get honored this year, I was really happy to see that, because he's had such a great career here at Wartburg and has been so impactful to our offense. And it's great to see him get that recognition. And obviously, Tucker Kinney, I think, to me, he could have been, maybe should have been, the offensive MVP of our league. That's who we had nominated from our standpoint. But it's hard to get as an offensive lineman. But I don't know if there's a better candidate to receive an honor higher than the Conference Player of the Year, than a guy who's, like I said, all 32 NFL teams have taken a look at. And we've had numerous NFL teams on our campus to meet with him. So for him to get first team all conference was great. And I'm hoping that he continues to see some significant honors as we move forward too. So again, there's a number of guys and that I wish maybe would have been a little higher than where they were at. But those are three that stood out to me that just proud of what they did, and would bring them up, I guess, with that question.
You touched on what Platteville does offensively and the challenges that they bring to the table, forcing you to tackle in space. What about the Pioneer defense? What are the biggest challenges they bring to the table?
Yeah, they're very multiple on defense. That's going to be the biggest challenge. They're able to kind of mix things up in terms of their fronts. They've got a number of guys on their defense that can really play a couple of, kind of line up in some different spots, maybe drop into coverage, bring pressure. So they're coming at you from all angles. You're not always sure who's coming in pressure and who's dropping off and where they're going to be in coverage. They can play the same coverage with, a different guy dropping to that spot on this play, and then the next play it's another guy. So they're just very multiple. They're a little challenging to kind of figure out where they're going to be, and that's something Coach Wheeler obviously has been really good at over the years, is figuring out those type of defenses. But I'm glad Coach Bowder, Dan Bowder, Wartburg guy, is the defensive coordinator up there, and he's done a tremendous job with that defense for a number of years right now. And I'm glad we've got a little extra time here this year to try to prepare for that, because like I said, he does a great job of disguising, of making it complicated for you to understand exactly where they're coming from. And they're kids just like ours. I mean, I can tell that they're coached by Dan, and that he's come from this Wartburg tree, because they're kids. They play hard, they play fast, they play physical, they're relentless on defense. You can tell that he's really got them playing for each other, and I think that's the biggest compliment I think you give a defensive coach is let them know how their kids play with great effort, and that's something that I think that stands out to us. And hey, we're going to have to be able to match that intensity and energy with our offense, and be able to execute against a team that's going to put a lot of pressure on you as you try to make plays.
Do you feel Platteville's play style shows some similarities to some teams you played in the regular season?
Yeah, for sure, no doubt about it. I think so. On their offensive side of the ball, we've been seeing Dubuque, Central, even a little bit of Loris this year, Simpson this year, kind of giving us some different formations, spreading you out, putting the ball out there in space, a lot of screen game, trying to set you up a little bit with that. And then, hey, once you think you got it figured out and you're running down there and tackling some of those short passes and screens, now they're taking shots down the field and getting explosive. And these guys are capable of doing all that. And they still, I would say they probably have a little bit more balance with the run game aspect of that on their offense, and maybe some of the teams that we've been seeing that also spreads you out in that manner. So that causes a little bit more of a complicated scenario when they are willing to run it. They don't just make themselves one-dimensional all by themselves, which some of these teams have done. But I would say we've seen some offenses that want to make it a space game like that. Defensively, we've seen some defenses that want to pressure you and give you multiple looks. And that's something that our offense had to deal with, throughout the year, is kind of what we maybe prepared for going into that game. And you get there and it looks a little bit different, so you got to deal with these different looks and maybe what you're playing for. And all of a sudden, here we go, we got to make some adjustments on the sideline or within a series. And our guys have been really good at doing that. So I think the schedule that we did play has really prepared us for this game. We've seen similar schematics. We've been in, like I said, situations where we've had to make the type of adjustments I think we're going to have to make on Saturday as the game wears on. And we've played close games, and we've found ways to win. And that's a very important characteristic for a team is, hey, you play in some challenging games, you get yourself a little bit back against the wall, and you find a way to get the job done and win a football game. And so, like I said, between their scheme, we've seen some of that stuff. We've played in some big football games this year, and I think our guys are prepared to be able to play in this type of game come Saturday. And I think, like I said, we'll see some things that we've been seeing throughout the year. And it's nice to know that I think that gives us some confidence knowing that we've played some teams that have some similarities to this to help with our preparation.
Not that you expect anything else at the end of November, but it's not going to be warm on Saturday. Do you discuss that at all? How do you prepare for that, or is that one of those things that's outside of your control, so it's really not a topic of discussion?
Yeah, we just tell them weather's our friend. Hey, if it's going to be 50 degrees, 60 degrees on Saturday, that's the way we like it. If it's going to be 90 degrees on Saturday, that's the way we like it. If it's going to rain, that's the way we like it. If it's going to be, like it might be 10 degrees, feels like 10, that's the way we like it. We try not to dwell too much on the weather. I know some teams, even when you get a game where it might rain, they wet the ball down. To me, that's just like, we don't want to have that stuff in our guys' head. Hey, don't worry about it. Just play the game of football. You're going to be all right. Don't let the things that you can't control affect what you can control, right? So we just got to make sure we go out there and play with great effort, great execution, and the weather will be our friend. And so we won't talk about it a bunch, but we've obviously the last 2 years have played deep in the playoffs, and to me, the colder it gets, the more fun it is. I think you kind of see a little bit of a different energy about teams when it is cold out there. The guys have fun with that. It's you're playing in meaningful games if you get a chance to play when the weather is going to be like it is on Saturday, and that's like I said, we've kind of seen a little bit of all that. You go back to 2022 and played out there against La Crosse. The wind was about ready to blow the goalposts over, and there was flurries in the air, and hey, that was fun. We found a way to win. We played some games where this time here at St. John's in 2022. I think it was like 50 or 60 degrees that day. And then last year North Central comes in here, and that was about as windy and cold as you're going to find, and our guys were able to play at a high level in that game. So like I said, the conditions certainly will probably impact some things within the game, but in terms of our preparation, we're not going to let that affect us. We're going to go out there and practice in the wind and the cold or whatever shows up, and we're going to get ourselves ready to play in whatever conditions we have on Saturday. And I think our guys will be excited to do so.
Good luck Saturday.
All right. Thank you very much.